Hello everybody, it's Alan Morales again, and welcome to my first top 10 video. As I teased from the previous video, I'm planning to do my top 10 favorite Pixar movies. Before we get started, I want to say a few rules. First of all, I'm going to include the first movies of each Pixar franchise, and I'll try to include a few sequels with the picks. But I won't be including any spin-offs such as Lightyear or any shorts because then we'd be here all day. Now with that out of the way, let's get this video through with, shall we? Number 10. A Bug's Life. A Bug's Life is about a blue ant named Flick who does things by accident or screws things up whenever he makes new inventions. And then he tried to get some warrior bugs to protect all the insects from the grasshoppers, only to realize that the warrior bugs were actually circus bugs instead. But the reason why I put A Bug's Life as number 10 is because it's one of those movies that's underrated, and I agree with that. Because unlike many other Pixar movies, that much attention as it did before, and it was rivaled by a DreamWorks movie named Ants. But however, even though with all the negatives here, there are a bunch, and I do mean a bunch, of positives in this movie. Like its beautiful animation, the character designs, the settings, the plot, and the voice actors themselves, and also with its villains, which are Hopper and all the other grasshoppers. To sum it all up, I enjoyed A Bug's Life, and it's one of my favorite old Pixar movies from the old times. I highly recommend you watch this movie on Disney Plus. When it comes to movies like this, it's one of the best. So, like I said before, I recommend you watch it. Number 9. Elemental. Ah yes, Elemental, one of Pixar's best movies in its modern days. Elemental is about a young firewoman named Ember, and she and her family moved into a city where water, fire, air, and land can live in a city all together. And then Ember met Wade, a water guy, or go with the flow man. The reason why I put Elemental as number 9 is because, compared to A Bug's Life, this movie was a box office failure. But I heard that it made a comeback. But if you look away from the negatives, you'll see that there's a lot of positives in this movie. The animation is vibrant and colorful. The characters are memorable and likable, even relatable. It has an interesting plot, and it has an interesting showcase of how fire and of every non-living thing can come together. All in all, Elemental is one of the best modern Pixar movies, along with Luca and Turning Red. But that's not important right now. Let's move on with the next pick on my list, shall we? Number 8. Coco. Coco is about a teenage boy named Miguel who goes on an adventure in the land of the dead, and that's when he meets a musician or a troublemaker named Hector, and they try to find Ernesto de la Cruz, who Miguel believes to be his great-great-grandfather. But later on in the movie, that's when it turned out that Ernesto was the villain, a twist villain you could say. And that's an excellent twist villain in the story. Another reason why I put this movie on the list is because of the very good use of characters, excellent use of songs, especially Remember Me, and music, and the story, and how vibrant the animation is. It's just like Elemental, but a little more colorful than it was. Now then, let's move on. Number 7. Soul. Soul is about a jazz musician named Joe Gardner who then goes to the great before where souls can be able to find their purpose of what they'll do in life. And Joe met 22, a soul who refused to go to Earth because she thought it sucked because of all the other mentors who failed and now hated her. Then, later on in the film, that's when both Joe and 22 found the purpose and the meaning of life. Overall, Soul is one of the best movies in the 2020s, along with many others, which I'll get to later. And if you're new to this movie, I highly recommend you watch it. Number 6 is a tie of two between Monsters University and Monsters Inc. Let's first talk about Monsters University. This movie shows the backstory of Mike Wazowski and James P. Sullivan, or most likely Sully, and it shows of how they became scarers, and there was another team known as Roar Mega Roar, who competed against Uzma Kappa, Mike and Sully's team in the Scare Games, and together they had to be able to win the Scare Games together, despite how many times they were fighting against each other and teased by the other monsters. Now let's talk about Monsters Inc. Now, this movie takes place of where they're at in the present day. And I talked about Monsters University first because that's what happened to them before they went to Monsters Inc. Now, let's talk about the movie Monsters Inc. itself. This movie shows Mike and Sully in their adult years and of how Mike keeps working Sully to become the number one scarer and to break the all-time scare record. But one day, the villain, Randall, had got to try to beat the record, and then when Sully went into the scare floor, that's when he met Boo, a girl from the human world, and Mike and Sully have to do all they can in order to get her back home. Now, I put both of those movies together because for two reasons. One, they're both part of the same franchise, and two, they both have shown of the story of how they were and how they are now. And another reason why I like both those movies is because not only the story, but also the animation, voice actors, characters, and humor. So therefore, if you're new to that kind of franchise and you're interested in, I recommend you watch those one. Number 5, Toy Story. And by the Toy Story movie, I mean all four of them. The first one from 1995 and its latest one in 2019. I'm going to talk about each Toy Story movie separately. The first one shows about Woody, and that's when it first shows of how toys come to life when no one is around, until a brand new toy named Buzz Lightyear took his place or seemed to replace Woody by him. But as the film progresses, that's when they became good friends, and during the move, that's when they were working together. In the second movie, that's when Buzz and the Ham, Potato Head, Rex, and Slinky had to find Woody from a greedy toy collect from Al Mcqueen, as better known. In the third one, that's when Andy was packing up for college, but the toys moved to a daycare and they met Lotso, but it turned out that Lotso was the villain all along. So the toys had to be able to work together in order to leave Sunnyside. And in the fourth one, that's when Woody helped Waddy go through kindergarten. And that's when Bonnie made a toy called Forky. In conclusion, I enjoyed all four of these movies. Well, not the fourth one, but I think it's okay overall. And I also like the movies for its animation, writing, characters, voice actors, and its humor. Therefore, if you like Pixar classics, then these are the movies for you.